And for me, Spike Lee film, controversy right away. I think this film is a very thought-provoking film.
You know, my ancestors were slaves. Is Spike Lee angry? Is Spike Lee angry that a show like this is allowed to be on television?
I've been doing Kickstarter before there was Kickstarter. That's how I raised the money for my first one. She's gonna have it.
So why go to Kickstarter then? If you know how to raise money, why are you going there?
Because crowdfunding is the new wave.
Spike Lee, a talented American movie director, has made a significant impact in Hollywood through his work. However, doing so wasn't as easy as it seems. Spike Lee has revealed that he has faced his share of struggles in Hollywood, from backlash and attacks to death threats. A few months ago, Spike shared an inside look at what movie directors have to face in the industry, revealing its darker side. His journey wasn't easy, as he encountered many hurdles and obstacles in his career due to always speaking the truth. However, there's a lot more to his life than this. Let's take a look at what Spike has revealed about working in the Hollywood industry. Spike Lee, originally named Shelton Lee, was born in 1957 in Atlanta, Georgia. When he was very young, his family moved from pre-civil rights Georgia to Brooklyn, New York. He grew up in a proud and intelligent household. His dad was a jazz musician, and his mom was a school teacher. His mom nicknamed him Spike because of his tough nature. Spike went to Morehouse College in Atlanta for his undergraduate studies and honed his filmmaking skills at Clark Atlanta University. After graduating, he continued his education at the Tisch School of the Arts graduate film program. Since childhood, Spike was passionate and loved watching movies. Spike shared, "When I was little, my father hated Hollywood films, but my mother was a cinephile. And since I was the eldest sibling, I was her movie date." However, little did he know that making films in Hollywood wouldn't be an easy job. He has shared what he had to face as a newcomer in Hollywood, addressing the issues that come with being a black director. As part of Black History Month, he told his audience that there are no overnight successes and that any artist must struggle and strive to accomplish what they want. Lee, who has made 9 films in 10 years, focused his speech on his career and background. He used his own experiences to talk about what he learned from his mistakes and successes. Lee shared, "I went to Morehouse," Lee said. "It was there that I became a filmmaker. Upon coming to Morehouse, I had no idea what I wanted to do. When I graduated from Morehouse, I felt I didn't have the necessary skills to be a filmmaker. It was a program at New York University where I started to be a filmmaker." Lee admitted that at first, his career didn't take off as he had hoped. He shared, "I felt because I was Spike Lee and I was talented that Mr. Spielberg would call me up because I was talented and young and the industry needed people like me. I was young and dumb. I waited by the phone for my agent to call. Eventually, Ma Bell shut off the phone. A notice came to shut off the gas. I had to get off my..." Lee also shared how he figured out to get into Hollywood on his own, with little to no opportunities as a young black filmmaker in the industry. Trying to break into Hollywood through an independent route, Lee made his first film, Messenger, which he called a disaster. Lee also shared a moment when he was broke and wanted to buy films. He managed to buy them by saving and recycling empty soda cans. He said, "For me, it was the most devastating professional moment. I thought about where I went wrong. I was overambitious. It takes expertise and experience over the years." Lee tried again, making She's Gotta Have It as cheaply as possible. That's how we started. You just hear about the successes people have and not the struggles they go through. I did not roll out of bed and just start. I was saving empty soda cans to buy film. It takes that kind of dedication. When you choose to do something in the arts, you're always going to be ridiculed. You have to have dedication and vision. You will be laughed at if you are different. Now, one might assume that once you enter the industry, life is all glitz and glamour. However, it was quite the opposite for Spike. He faced the challenge of having his films put down by the Hollywood gatekeepers, who were focused on maximizing their profits and not keen on letting anyone new succeed. However, Spike persevered. Spike was left with only 2 options. Either he takes a risk by entering the predominantly white world and facing the challenges that come with it, or he stays in a smaller space where you're celebrated by mostly black audiences, but with fewer opportunities for fame and resources to create art. Lee's first film, She's Gotta Have It, gained him recognition. His second film, School Daze, showed he could do even better with a bigger budget. It seemed like he was going to become a big name in Hollywood, but his movies primarily focused on black issues and themes, which limited their appeal. So, with his third film, Do the Right Thing, he aimed for something more universal, yet incredibly challenging. This was perhaps his most praised film so far. It appeared on many lists of the best movies when it was released. Critics like Siskel and Ebert even called it the best movie of the year. Even though it's been on many lists of the greatest films of all time, it wasn't even nominated for a Best Picture award that year. This was the first time Spike realized where he stood. Even though he might be liked by white audiences, he was still in a less powerful position. He was encouraged not to cause trouble and to be thankful for what he had. If he did something different, he'd get in trouble. Do the Right Thing, with its unclear ending, made some people angry and led to protests. They said it was against white people and reminded them of race riots. Lee said, "People forget that when Do the Right Thing came out, critics with loud voices said, 'This film will incite African Americans to riot all across the country.' It sounds crazy now, but that was written by prominent film critics, that my film would cause black folks to run amok. They've still never said they F up. It was a very racist take on a film that dealt with the legacy of racism in the US. Then there's the ongoing fight with the Academy Awards. Back in 1990, the uplifting movie Driving Miss Daisy won Best Picture, while Do the Right Thing wasn't even nominated in that category, which caused a lot of controversy, though it got nominated in 2 other categories. 3 decades later, in 2019, Blackkklansman lost to Green Book for Best Picture. Reportedly, this upset Spike Lee so much that he waved his arms in disgust and seemed to storm out. After that, Spike always had a hard time getting money to make his movies, even though he was making money for the studios on a regular basis.
I've been doing Kickstarter before there was Kickstarter. That's how I raised the money for my first one. She's gonna have it.
So why go to Kickstarter then? If you know how to raise money, why are you going there?
Because crowdfunding is the new wave.
By this time, Spike couldn't understand why it was so difficult for him to start a project. Then, some years later, he made Malcolm X, a movie he had to fight for the chance to direct. But after that, it seemed like the studios weren't as interested in him anymore. Since Malcolm X was based on a real person's life, some people had issues with how certain events were shown in the movie. Making the film was also really tough. It talks about racism and social issues, especially during the time when Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush were in power. Spike Lee, the director, got a lot of criticism, especially for how white people were portrayed in the movie. The movie did really well with both critics and audiences. It made people see Malcolm X as a hero for black people. The movie showed everything about Malcolm X, like how he joined the Nation of Islam and even his disagreements with the group. However, Spike Lee got death threats from Farrakhan, so he was forced to pull out all mentions of him from the movie. By the time he made Bamboozled, he had been in the industry for 15 years and felt like he was at his lowest point. He was tired of being seen as a big risk or a strange thing in Hollywood.
Are people already going crazy about this movie? Are you getting a lot of is there a lot of controversy about this?
Well, number one, I'm really tired of that word.
He was also frustrated about how black people are shown in the media and the kind of black shows and movies that get approved. Meanwhile, his movies, which show a better and more positive image of black people, can't get any money. Spike wanted to make movies about Joe Louis and Jackie Robinson, but he couldn't make them happen. So, Bamboozled became his way of talking about the whole system and his experience as a talented black person. He felt like he had to fit into a certain mold to get the recognition and support he deserved. Even though it was made over 20 years ago, it still shows all these struggles just as well as it would today. Lee saw Bamboozled as a way to mark the 100th anniversary of cinema and 50 years of TV. While many saw it as a time to celebrate, Lee wanted to look at history from a different perspective. Lee said, "I felt it would be a good time to look at how these art forms treated the depiction of black people. Not good, is the short answer. It's the exploration of how they have dehumanized human beings." It is no surprise that Lee pulls no punches in his critique of American cinematic history. The film wraps up with a montage exposing the use of blackface and racist stereotypes throughout the history of American entertainment. Lee calls it one of the best scenes I have ever done, even though he also feels that it was part of the reason why the film was dismissed at the time of its release. Because those images are so hurtful. Who wants to see Judy Garland, Bing Crosby, and Mickey Rooney in blackface? We wanted to use a clip of Bugs Bunny in blackface, but Warner Brothers wouldn't give us clearance to use it. American critic Roger Ebert condemned Bamboozled by writing, "I think his fundamental miscalculation was to use blackface itself. he overshoots the mark. Blackface is so blatant, so wounding, so highly charged that it obscures any point being made by the person wearing it. While Anthony Lane stated in The New Yorker, "Enough has changed for audiences to know blackface is ugly and unfunny." Amy Taubin argued in The Village Voice that Lee had made a justified but overly reductive attack on the television industry for its degrading representations of African Americans and on the audience that swallows the racist brew and begs for more. The film criticizes how media representation creates stereotypes that normalize prejudices and have lasting effects. It also shows how the oppressed community can repeat these stereotypes, creating a new form of minstrelsy. Lee explains, "I include black folks too in my criticism, and they were dismissing the film too." Lee also mentioned, "I don't think an artist can predict how the public is going to respond to their art." Spike Lee. After March Black Lives Matter, there was Oscars So White, a social media movement that made the film industry think about who gets to decide what movies get made. This got even more attention after Dark Me Too. Suddenly, Bamboozled didn't just seem like a movie about the past. It looked like the first step in showing the problems that needed fixing in the entertainment world. Lots of articles have talked about how important and great Lee's movie is since it came out. David Fear said, "At the turn of the century, it seemed like a crude attempt at sketch comedy. 20 years later, the movie feels like a forgotten gem in Spike's career, one whose spit polish and reappraisal comes at the exact right moment." Lee says, "I don't think it's a case of I've been vindicated because I knew what I did when I did it. It's just that old cliche, better late than never." However, by this time it seemed that Spike would have even got used to death threats as much as he struggled in Hollywood. The two white writers of Spike Lee's intense movie, Blackkklansman, shared that they're ready to get death threats once the film comes out this weekend. But David Rabinowitz and Charlie Wachtel won't change their political views. They believe President Donald Trump is just like a Ku Klux Klan member, and they're not afraid of any haters. They say the movie, based on the true story of black cop Ron Stallworth infiltrating the Ku Klux Klan in the 1970s, is really important for today's world. It's based on Stallworth's book from 2014. Wachtel explained that their script reflected what was going on in America in 2018. He said, "I think we are very aware of our safety right now at this current time in America." Fellow writer Rabinowitz chimed in, "We're not giving away our address or number publicly," while Wachtel added, "It's probably for the best, and we're taking precautionary measures to make sure that nobody finds out about it, but at the same time, it's like we expect it. It's like bring it on. You want to make death threats? Go ahead. We won't be surprised if there are." Rabinowitz added, "I've seen some of the comments of the people who you could probably describe as Trump supporters about this film. They're calling it anti-white. Well, that's insane and ridiculous. If you watch the film, it's not anti-white at all. It's anti-white supremacy, which is completely different. I'll say also to Trump supporters, hey, you might really enjoy this movie. However, after receiving tons of backlash and struggle in the Hollywood industry, fate has something more decided for Spike Lee. You know what they say? Hard work pays off. But for Lee, it paid off after 30 years. After 30 years of his highly praised films, he finally won his first competitive Academy Award for adapting the screenplay of Blackkklansman. It was the same movie Spike thought he would receive tons of backlash and death threats. Blackkklansman was nominated for 6 awards, including Best Director, Best Picture, and Best Supporting Actor. It won the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay. On the stage, Lee thanked his grandmother for encouraging and supporting him. He said, "My grandmother, who saved 50 years of Social Security checks to put her first grandchild, she called me Spiky Poo. She put me through Morehouse College and NYU grad film," said Lee. "Before the world tonight, I give praise to our ancestors who built this country, along with the genocide of its native people." Lee received an honorary Oscar in 2015, but this is his first competitive Academy Award. Back in 1989, his film, Do the Right Thing, was a huge success, costing only $6.5 million to make, but earning over $37 million at box offices worldwide. The film, which explores racial tensions in Brooklyn's Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood, was nominated for 2 Oscars at the 1990 Academy Awards, Best Supporting Actor and Best Original Screenplay, but didn't win either. Do the Right Thing wasn't nominated for Best Picture. Lee has said that the experience taught him an important lesson about valuing his work. He said, "This is not in any way disrespectful to the Academy, but after Do the Right Thing, I just said, you know, whatever award it is, I'm not going to let myself be in a position where I feel I have to have my work validated." He also praised the president of Universal Pictures for releasing the film. 30 years ago this month, Universal was under pressure to not release the film or delay it past the summer due to fears of racial unrest. Tom Pollock, the president of Universal Pictures, was 100% behind the film, director Spike Lee recalls. Universal was not afraid. Lee said, "People forget that Tom Pollock had just went through hell with Scorsese's Last Temptation of Christ when he received death threats. So he could have easily said to me, 'Spike, I can't put my family through this again.' He didn't do that. Tom Pollock was not scared at all." In the industry, Spike Lee's work brought about a significant change after years of struggle and hard work. However, it was never easy for Lee. He mentioned on multiple occasions the backlash and gatekeeping he faced in Hollywood, revealing the darker side of working as a director. Many fans appreciate and love his work for speaking against sensitive matters that no one dares to speak about. A user said, "If you or any other black creator gets a 'I would like you more if you didn't get so political' from mainly non-BLK consumers, it just means, I don't like the harsh realities you speak on of racial topics, and I'd rather close my eyes and ears than embrace them, and y'all have to be doing something right. Sure, y'all get that, but keep on and THX for the content. Love or honesty." That's it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching.